Student athletes, be bold for Christ. You don't want to miss this conversation with University of Iowa quarterback Hank Brown.
Hi, my name is JD Rienow. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Rienow, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Rob Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries. Today we're going to be talking about making an impact for Christ through sports. And I've got a very special guest on Family Vision today, Hank Brown. Welcome to Family Vision.
Thanks for having me.
Hank, you are the quarterback at the University of Iowa, formerly at Auburn, but we're actually kind of family friends. I know your parents from back in youth ministry days. Can you tell us just a little bit about your family?
Yeah, so I come from a family of 7. Obviously, like you said, my parents, we grew up in Wheaton, Illinois, and I have 4 siblings. So one older brother who is about to graduate from Auburn and get married in May, and then a younger sister who's in the middle, and she is about to graduate from Lipscomb Academy and go to Lipscomb University, and then 2 younger brothers, one who's a freshman in high school and one who's a junior.
Well, Hank, the reason why I wanted to talk to you today is because a lot of the Christian parents that are a part of the Family Vision community, a lot of their kids play sports. My kids play sports. We love it. And I think for Christian parents, they understand that it's not just about the sport. It's not just about what happens on the field, but that God actually wants to use our kids as a light for Christ with their teammates, with their coaches. But I just kind of have an observation, and that is that a lot of times there's a desire for kids and even the students, the student athletes, Christian student athletes. They say, yeah, I want God to use me as a basketball player or a football player, whatever it might be. But a lot of times that's as far as it goes, sort of good intentions. And yeah, I'm a Christian, but there's sometimes a lack of intentionality with that. They think just sort of being a Christian and showing up is all they need. Or sometimes there are opportunities to really press in as a Christian, and it's going to require some courage in that moment, but they don't take advantage of that opportunity, that open door. God, give me an opportunity. Well, then God gives them an opportunity, but then they don't courageously step through that door. So I wanted to ask you that question, first of all. What does it look like for you now as a college athlete, Christian college athlete, just to be intentional about living your faith in the context of your football?
Yeah, I love that question. I think this is something that I've navigated more recently in my past few years, especially with transferring from Auburn to Iowa. I think just like you said, being super intentional, obviously playing on a sports team, these are friends, these are relationships that could last a lifetime. This is for anybody who's on a sports team, this is, an opportunity for you to show them Christ, like you're saying. And so, it's been really cool for me as I've transitioned to Iowa, building a new community, just trying to build these relationships through Christ's lens and through just being a light. But I love what you said. Like, I think that's awesome. But I think there's a second element to being a Christian athlete, and that's being courageous and bold. And so, like you said, I think when you have those opportunities, when God puts those circumstances in front of you for you to be bold, you have to take advantage of that, whether that's an interview, whether that's inviting, a teammate to church with you, whatever that looks like, whether that's just spending quality time with them, at a meal, sitting down with them. I think there's a million different ways to do it, but I think intentionality is what sparks that. And so these past few years, I've really been navigating, what that looks like and how to be bold and courageous. And so I think there's a ton of different ways to do it, but just going through the motions every day is not going to set you apart and set yourself apart for the kingdom. So.
All right, I want to go back to a 2-week window in your career at Auburn. You are the backup quarterback at one of the premier football programs in the nation, and you get an opportunity to start. You get an opportunity to start this big game against New Mexico. First of all, tell me about like how that even goes, like with the coach. What, you get called into the office, you get a text. I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we had been competing for the job that entire week of practice, and Coach Freeze called me into his office Thursday after practice, and it was with the entire offensive staff. And pretty much, we just went through practice film together. I watched it with them, and then he sat me down after, kind of with me, the offensive coordinator and the QB coach, and told me that I was going to be the starter, and was super excited. Let me know he was praying for me, and we kind of went from there. So.
What was your reaction? I mean, obviously with the coach, thanks, coach, for the opportunity. Let's go. But like internally, what are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I was fired up, obviously. Super stoked. I think the way that I'm wired is I don't get super nervous until like the actual time of the game. And so, I was more so just excited and ready to go out there and sling it.
All right. So that game is against New Mexico. It's your first D1 college start. This is a big deal. How'd the game go?
It was an awesome game. We went out there and dominated. I had a lot of weapons around me that were able to, I was able to get the ball to and make plays. And so we won the game. And it was a super fun game.
Well, you're not going to toot your own horn. You're going to be giving your teammates credit, as you should. It's a team sport, right? But I think you had 4 touchdowns on the day. So it was a huge day for you as quarterback leading the team. And then on ESPN that night, I'll never forget your interview after the game. There are a lot of Christian athletes. We just got done with the Super Bowl, right? I think both of the quarterbacks there are believers. It's not uncommon for an athlete in a post-game interview on the field to, hey, I thank God for the opportunity, and then they go on to talk football. But you just did a lot more than that. I mean, you talked so boldly, about your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and your commitment to Him, and giving Him praise, really not just for the win, but for the whole opportunity to be a part of that program. Can you tell me about that interview a little bit more?
Yeah, the reason I play football is to use my platform to honor and glorify Jesus. And so football is not my identity. It's just what I do. It's not who I am. And so me getting that opportunity, I've dreamed of that my whole life, just having an opportunity to glorify Jesus in what I do. And so it was so cool to be able to have that opportunity after the game and just give Jesus all the credit because he deserves it. I wouldn't have been in that situation without him or my faith or, the people surrounding me that supported me. So it was a super cool opportunity and I was so happy to give him the glory.
All right. Well, I loved it. And then you go into this next week. You're preparing for game number 2 as a starter. Who is the opponent the next weekend?
Arkansas.
All right. Another huge game, right? So how'd that game go?
That game was rough. I threw 3 interceptions in the first half and got benched at halftime. And so it was a big learning experience for me. I think that, like I said, it was a roller coaster. The week before, I had an amazing week and I was on top of the mountain. And then next week, I get benched. And so I'm in the valley, And so I think for me, just that learning experience, I learned so much more from that loss than I did the win. And I'm super thankful that my identity isn't in football. My identity is in Jesus Christ. And so at the end of the day, Jesus is my Lord and Savior, whether I win or lose.
So after the first game, you had an opportunity to let people see your faith and your love for Christ on ESPN and Sports Center and all that. Did you have some opportunities to let people see your love and commitment to Christ? Obviously, that's not going to be on TV after getting benched after the interceptions. But were there some conversations with people that didn't make the news that maybe were just as impactful?
Yeah, I think I've had multiple, but I think really the biggest thing after that had happened was me being able to show my resiliency. I think that's something that I was able to lock in and hone in on after like the next few weeks of practice, like showing my coaches and teammates, like, hey, that might have happened, but I'm resilient and I'm going to go out and show you guys in practice. And, I'm not going to change who I am. It doesn't affect me. I'm going to go out there and continue to be who I am and do what I do. So I think there were a ton of different opportunities, different shows and podcasts that I was able to go on and speak that at the end of the day, my identity is in Jesus Christ and nothing else.
Well, let me transition a little bit because I want to have you share with Christian parents. A lot of families listen to this. A lot of teenagers are listening to Family Vision. So I want you to talk a little bit about faith in sports and faith in sports families. We do have a situation right now, especially with travel sports and the commitment that families are making to sports tournaments on all these weekends. Here's a pattern we see. There's a lot of sports church conflicts now. Parents are signing their kids up for a lot of Sunday conflicts. Obviously, professional football, right, is a Sunday conflict almost every week. But even youth sports, they're signing up their 8-year-olds for tournaments every other weekend. And whenever church and sports collide, they choose the sport. And on the way to the tournament, they'll say, hey, I just want you to know that just because we're skipping church today, doesn't mean that church isn't important. And I'm not saying it's a sin to travel on a Sunday. I'm not saying it's a sin to miss church on a Sunday. But like, if every single time there's a sports church conflict in a family and the parent chooses the sport, they are telling their kid what's more important to them. They're saying every time there's a conflict, we go to sports. Well, the kid's going to learn the sport's more important to my mom, more important to my dad. So I know this is sort of a big can of worms, but as you observe what's happening in youth sports and in the Christian world, what would be some principles and things that you'd share with Christian parents?
Yeah, I love that. I think there's two main things that I would like to share about that topic. Number one, I think now that I'm on the other side of youth sports, like you said, I realize, a lot of parents think that the kids' youth sports at that age matter so much. Every game, every shot, every throw matters a ton. And the reality of it is that it really doesn't. And that's kind of what I've learned as I've gotten older. Like, at the end of the day, him missing a game for church or her missing a game for church, like, that's a principle for your entire life that you got to set. And, as I've gotten to college and it becomes my own decision whether or not I want to go to church, my parents taking me to church every Sunday growing up has set that principle for me to go to church no matter what. And so, one thing you see in college is people make 1,000 different excuses for it, whether they're staying up late the night before and they're like, oh, well, I need my sleep. Or, like you said, there's NFL games, so I'm going to stay home and watch that. It just sets the principle for what your kid's going to do when they move out of your house and go to college. And so I think it's super important. And going back to what I first said, like, the reality of it is, a lot of parents, I think, put way too much pressure into youth sports and think it's the entire world. And at the end of the day, like, I really don't think it matters as much as you really think it does. It's very awesome and it's super fun. Youth sports are incredible. Playing youth sports growing up was one of the best experiences, but I don't think it's as important as many people put the pin on it to be.
If you had to zero it in, let's say there's a high school athlete listening to you right now, Hank, they're a Christian, they do want to shine for Christ in their athletic world. What would be the one encouragement you'd give them?
I would say be bold. I'd say that's the one encouragement that I could give. And I wish, I would have heard that when I was in high school. You're always scared of what people will think, or if you're going to get turned down. Like, invite that person to youth group, invite them to church with you. Even if it's weird, even if they say no, like, who cares? Be bold.
Hank, I think that folks in the Family Vision community would love to be praying for you and tracking you along with your career. How could they stay in touch with you?
Yeah, I think one way that y'all could be praying for me would be just continuing to build these relationships through the light of Jesus and continuing to shine my light for the kingdom. And like I said, just praying that I can be bold as well. It's something that I strive for every day.
I love it. Is there a place on social media that they can keep track of your football exploits?
Yes, my Instagram tag is Hank Brown 17.
Hank, thank you for taking time. I loved the chance to talk with you today. And families, as always, you know that Amy and me and our staff here at Visionary Family Ministries, we care about you personally, and we'd love the chance to hear from you. We'd love the chance to pray with you and pray for you. You can send prayer needs to us at podcast@visionaryfam.com. Email those to us at podcast@visionaryfam.com. We'll get back to you. Love to connect with you. Love to pray with you. We are here to help your family follow Jesus every day. And we look forward to our next time together with you on Family Vision.